So today we're going to do something different. I'm going to rank the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise films, and I'm going to rank all of the horror franchises or other franchises that I've reviewed in kind of a new video form where I'll do a video ranking each franchise, courtesy of Derek from Derek's Horror Corner, who is a really awesome guy. Go check out his stuff. He's a really good YouTuber as well that's just starting, and he recommended doing that, and I thought, why don't I do that? Because I really... I don't know why I didn't do that. Everybody else does that. Does a video on the rankings of the franchises. So I might as well go do that. So going right into it with my Nightmare on Elm Street rankings. Now I'd say for me this is kind of a controversial one because my number one is not the one you expect. Going into this, it's not the one you expect to see at the number one, and you might not expect some of these and how I rank them. So for the last film for me, number 9 would be the remake. Now the remake, people argue whether the remake or Freddy's Dead is the worst. But Freddy's Dead, at least, I think is more entertaining. I think in terms of the remake, it's got okay things about it, and I think that its biggest sin is that it has stupid jump scares and it's got really incredibly dull characters. I think at least with something like Freddy's Dead, those characters are more interesting. Freddy's Dead is more of a silly movie, but it's more fun and it's got more backstory with Freddy. This one, the remake, had some fun things about it, but overall, I think it's pretty much just a dud that's forgettable. A couple good things about it, but overall the remake is definitely my least favorite. And number 8, speaking of which, is Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. This one is not as terrible as everybody says. I can understand why people think this is bad, but it's definitely not one of the worst horror movies ever made. It's definitely not. It's at least got filmmaking in it. It's at least got a good acting in it, good actors. It's got fun. It's just a fun movie, a fun, silly time. I think that's its biggest sin for a lot of people, is that it's really silly, it's really dumb. But I was entertained. I was not bored ever. I was always entertained with this. Robert Englund, of course, is still awesome as Freddy, even though he's just silly in this movie. And the other films did that too, but this one just finally was the breaking point of Freddy coming off as silly in a lot of the movies, but this one is just plain silly in so many scenes. So I can see why people hate it, but I don't hate it at all. I don't think it's awful either. I think it's just totally okay. I like seeing the backstory of Freddy. I liked Freddy's daughter, Maggie. I liked how it connected and told the story of both his backstory and with Maggie's backstory. And I thought it was a cool ending for the first 6 films where they kept doing something different. Like how in the second one, Freddy was trying to possess Jesse. In the third one, it was the Dream Warriors. In the fourth one, it was the Dream Master, Alice. And then in the fifth one, it was the Dream Child. That Alice's kid, and in this one it's father versus daughter. Again, even if people hate this movie, I feel like it's cool that every film in this franchise does something different. Even though it's the same kind of story, that Freddy just killing people in their dreams, it does a different story aesthetic to it. And this one, father versus daughter, I really did like them together, and I thought they were totally fine. It just suffers from being really, really stupid. But I was entertained. I don't care. I enjoyed it though. And then number 7 for me would be Part 5, The Dream Child. Now this one is, it's got a lot of good things about it. I really do enjoy this one, but it's not the same level as the first 3, or even the fourth one. So it's totally fine. It's doing something unique and different. Freddy is using Alice's unborn child to dream and bring himself back and start killing people in their dreams. And I thought that was a unique idea and a cool idea. And Alice, again, in this movie, like the fourth one, is awesome. I love Alice. I think she's a great character, and I think that she is honestly, in some ways, best Nancy. And I love Nancy too. So it still has a lot of great things about it. Alice, I really do enjoy. I like Alice and Dan. I liked the kills in this were still good and still interesting and fun. I think it's just more forgettable than anything. Like, it's not awful or anything. It's just like, it's just kind of forgettable. It's got a cool idea, but it's more forgettable than a lot of the other ones on this list. And I even argue Freddy's Dead is more interesting because it's just so different than the other films. But this one's more forgettable, but it has... like, I liked the characters more in this one than Freddy's Dead, even though I like Maggie in Freddy's Dead, so I'd say this one is the next one up. And then I'd say number 6 for me is The Dream Master Part 4. This one has a lot of great things about it, I think. This one, like, the first 3 are awesome. Like, I love the first 3. But then this one, I think, is under that, where it has... Again, Alice is such an awesome character, and this has a lot of great kills as well. And I like the fact that even though they kill off all the characters from the last movie, which annoys me in these type of movies, but in this franchise, for some reason, whenever they do that, I feel like it doesn't feel as much of an insult. Like, it's still... They take their time, and I realized in this movie, rewatching it, that these characters from the last movie die halfway through, and they don't die like the first 20 minutes, like Resurrection or something, Halloween Resurrection, where it's like, you know, obviously they're just trying to get rid of these people, but this one, they took their time, and I liked Alice's connection with Kristen, and Kristen and her had a cool connection where it made sense whenever Kristen was killed that Alice would gain this power because of their friendship shown in this movie. So I really like that, and I really like the characters, and I thought that the kills are awesome as well. The kills are always great in all of these, but I think this one has really unique kills. And I think that just overall introducing this new set of characters I did really enjoy, and I think that they just did a great job with this one. It's just not as awesome as 1, 2, and 3 for me. And here we go with number 5, which is one that people are completely mixed on, but in terms of fun and in terms of how it looks, like, I really enjoy Freddy vs. Jason, my number 5, where Freddy vs. Jason, to me, it's hard to say whether it's... I guess you could completely say it's more of a nightmare movie than a Friday movie, because Jason is Freddy's puppet throughout the movie until Jason stands up and fights him, because Freddy uses his dead mother as a way to bring fear back into the kids of Springwood, and and then in the end Jason gets pissed and they fight. But I really did, again, love this movie. Like, I know people complain about a lot of things about this movie, and I can see why. Like Ken Kirzinger replacing Kane Hodder in this movie. Like, people didn't like him, like Jason. Freddy is awesome in this movie, though. Still, I love Freddy in this. He's still as great as he is in the other ones. And I thought that this movie, in terms of action, in terms of style, I think this is really one of the coolest looking movies in the franchise, and I really enjoyed the characters. Like, I liked Laurie a lot. I liked Will a lot. Like, I liked all these characters. I thought they were fun. They were typical Friday the 13th or Nightmare characters, like kids in the movie to get killed, but I thought that these actors were totally fine, and I enjoyed them all. And I thought that they were totally still interesting whenever the Freddy vs. Jason stuff wasn't happening on screen. And I liked the fact a lot that Laurie had a past with Freddy, kind of, where Freddy killed her mother in her sleep, and then the father came in to try to kill Freddy, but then she thinks that her father actually killed his mother, or killed her mother, and she resents him for it. And I like that story arc. That's interesting, and I think it's fun for a horror movie that they have that with Freddy, and how horrible of a bastard Freddy is, and how he did that and made it look like her father did it. It's just like in a lot of the Nightmare movies where Freddy makes it look like people did something they didn't. And again, I love that about Freddy in this franchise. But the kills are awesome. They're gory. They're gross. There's a lot of CG, which kind of is dated, but it still is fun. And I think this is, in terms of fun, this is one of the most fun of the franchise. Freddy is awesome in this, of course, like always. And I think that this just has fun characters, fun kills. This is why it's way up there. Even though people complain about a lot of things about this, I still think that this is one of the most watchable, despite people having issues with it. So I really enjoy Freddy vs. Jason. And then number 4 is part 3, Dream Warriors. And this one, to me, is really interesting because this is one people say it's either this or New Nightmare that's people's favorites after the first one. And I totally see why. This had Heather Langenkamp return. It had these characters that are all interesting, all developed. They're all fun and they're all great in the movie. And I like that they become these dream warriors that fight against Freddy in their dreams, and I think that's a really awesome concept. And again, every movie in this franchise does something different besides the remake, really. But I mean, the remake does a couple tiny differences, but it's not like the other films. But this one in particular is very interesting in how different it is and how these kids fight in their dreams, like fight back with Freddy. And Nancy returns, and I like the fact that even though there's of course movies after this, it felt like this one could have been the end. Like they really tried to, besides like the final like thing at the end, the final like couple seconds, they really did try to make this feel like it could have been the end. It could have been complete, because whenever Nancy dies, it felt like it was legit. Like I actually did feel for her character, and I liked how Kristen would be the new character to take over. And Patricia Arquette is awesome in this. Like, this is her first acting role, and of course she's a great actress, and I love how she already shined in this first movie. Just a unique concept. Really love these characters. Love the kills too. The guy who gets his veins pulled out and he gets walked around like a puppet. That's awesome. Gross. Just intense. Like I love things like that in this movie. I love Nancy returning. I loved all of these characters. I loved how they completed the arc with Nancy and her father in this movie. How they both returned from the first one. Like, that's just really cool. So I really enjoyed Dream Warriors. And then number 3, one that people shit on way too much, Freddy's Revenge, Part 2. This one, I think, in a lot of ways, I almost put this over the first one, because this one has, in my opinion, some of the most scariest Freddy moments in the franchise. Like, I think Freddy is actually really terrifying in this. I think it's a great idea of him possessing Jesse to come out into the real world, which is something people don't like. But I really, really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed the characters. I really loved Lisa. I thought that she was a great character, and I thought she was really, the actress who played her was really good, and she actually, like, I mean, I felt so much for this character, and I felt much for Jesse too, but I liked Lisa and how all she wants is Jesse, and like Freddy took him, so like she goes and their love conquers all at the end. But like I liked the whole movie in particular, and just how it built up to, like, kind of like the first one, where at the end of the first one, before they had any sequels, Wes Craven wanted to just be like, she could stop it by not believing in Freddy Nancy. In this one, Jesse just was strong enough to take over Freddy again and like kill Freddy and then come back. And I really like that, and I really love the scene at the pool where Freddy comes into the real world, which again is a thing people hate, but I don't care. There's so many things people hate about this movie, but to me this is just a misunderstood sequel, in a, like, no pun intended, misunderstood sequel, but I think it's awesome. I really love this movie. And then my number 2, again, surprising, would be the first film. Now, this one is hard to talk about because people have said everything they can say about this movie, but again, just great, just unique concept that has never been done before this movie in terms of horror movie, where this killer gets kids in their dreams. And I really liked all these characters. The kills are great. It's one of the more tame ones in terms of like the kills. Like, there's only like 3 or 4 kills in the movie, but I mean 5 and 6 did that too, where there are only like 3 people that died in each one of those too. But like, I really like this one because it is the first one. It's the one that started it all, and it still holds up, and it still has interesting characters and great kills, great soundtrack, great creepy score. Wes Craven just did a fantastic job with this first one. So that's all I can say about the first one, really, besides everything else I've already said about it. I think it's awesome, fantastic. And then my number one, really surprising, but my number one is the one Wes Craven came back to do, which is New Nightmare, the meta sequel to the franchise, where Freddy comes into the real world to stalk Heather Langenkamp, who played Nancy in the movies. This one, in terms of scariness, I think this is the scariest one, and I feel like that's why I put it as my number one, because these characters, like, I like how it's a real life thing where, like, the actress Heather Langenkamp has a kid and a husband, and, like, Freddy starts to bring fear in her because he's starting to get to her son. And even though it's a meta movie, like, it's so interesting, and it's so just cool how they made it. Like, this, like, they have no opening credits, so it seems like the movie is not even like a movie. Like, they just purposefully put the movie and start it, and then they do have credits at the end. But like, Wes Craven did that to trick you on purpose. Like, oh, it's gonna be, maybe it's like even though nobody would believe it, it's like, oh, it might be a thing that is real. But, like, I love that idea that he did some unique filmmaking things with this, just making this in the real world. And of course, in 2 years after this, whenever Scream came out, he would have, like, made it to where Scream became, like, the big, like, horror movie that changed all horror movies out in the 90s. But this one did it first, and it did it better. I love this one more, and I think that this one is just so actually scary. I think Freddy is the scariest he is in all the films. I think he is really, because he doesn't crack any jokes. He's literally just evil Freddy, and he's got a different look that looks great. I can really feel for Heather Langenkamp, and I can feel for her kid. I can feel for how these characters are in this horrible situation, and it just is really thrilling. The score is incredible. That scene on the highway is incredible, where Heather chases after Dylan, like, on the highway. And, like, again, just fantastic all around. And I think, yeah, I could say the first one is the best film, but, like, I love this one the most. And rewatching it, this was the one it held my interest all the way through. Not to say the other ones didn't, but this one I felt like was the most interesting. So I really enjoyed this for the characters, for the kills, for the horror. Like, it is the most darkest one. Freddy's got such a great look to him, such a dark look. So I really enjoyed this one. And it's my favorite, and I don't care what people say. I love this one. But my list was kind of controversial anyway, so I'm really glad I talked about this franchise, and I'm going to continue to do that with the other franchises that I've reviewed on this channel so far. So thanks, guys, for watching. Really appreciate it.